Hey there theme park fans, I'm Dan from themeparknut.com and today we're going to go through a little bit of a channel update and let you know what's been happening for us for the last couple of months. Let's get cracking. Okay, so I haven't really prepared any notes for this video, so I'm just going to ramble through a few things that have been going on for the last few months, which have been interesting for everybody, as well as sort of talk about some things that may or may not happen through the rest of the year. So yeah, so 2020 has not gone as planned for, I think, anyone, ourselves included. We've been lucky. I'm not gonna lie, I've been able to keep working at my job the whole time. In fact, I've actually got promoted at my job, which has meant I've been working probably even more at my job, and I was already working quite a lot. So I've sort of stepped up to run one of the companies in the group that I work for. So I was a head of development in charge of the software aspects, and now my boss and I have sort of swapped some responsibilities, and he's taking over the whole group and just focusing on the group, and I'm taking over this particular company, which is the largest of our companies. So it's been a really challenging year. That sort of started in February, and then obviously the coronavirus hit in March, and we've had office closures. Thankfully, we work in software, so we already were able to work from home, and I already did work from home a number of days a week. That number has become every day. So it hasn't made a massive difference. Like I said, I've definitely worked significantly more hours in the last 4 months. The reason I mention all of this is because you might have noticed that some of my regularity in my videos has changed in the last few months. There's a few things that I haven't kept up with doing 2 videos a week since basically the start of the coronavirus. Part of that at the start of the coronavirus, shutdowns and all that sort of stuff, was the stuff that I had ready to go in my backlog was all walking around a park making jokes, and all the parks were shut and it wasn't really appropriate. We're only just starting to open our theme parks back up in Australia. We've got the smallest of our big 3. SeaWorld open at the moment, Movie World opens in a couple of days, and Dreamworld, which we've actually got passes for at the moment, will open sometime in the next month and a half. So we're sort of haven't had a lot of theme park content because we haven't had a lot of theme parks, and it hasn't felt right sharing some of the already filmed content that I had from Movie World and stuff at the end of last year. So it's been an interesting thing. So I basically decided, right, Sunday videos I'm going to do when I can, and I'm not going to get stressed about doing it. Just the other week I read something from Jen LaForge, one of the great YouTubers in the Disney space, who basically said it's okay for creators to realize they need to take a break. And I absolutely agree with that. It's okay to look around at the world at the moment and going, you know what, I'm going to step back. You don't have to be the first person into a theme park just because you love theme parks and you want to get into. There's legitimate reasons why things are different at the moment. That's not saying we don't want it to get back to normal. We all do, and Australia has been incredibly lucky so far, touch wood, with the coronavirus, particularly compared to the US. Part of that is just pure luck. We are further away from everywhere. It took longer to get to us. We were able to shut down earlier. Part of that is that our government managed it slightly better. Mainly because we were getting, like, the New Zealand government managed it even better, and so we can't let New Zealand do anything better than us. So I think on the whole, Australia's government, and I mean state and federal, who both are on different sides in a lot of our states of the political persuasion, worked really well together, and so we've been quite lucky. We're now in a state where things are opening back up, and in our state it's quite safe for things to be opening back up. We've had basically 2 weeks without any infections in Queensland, and Queensland's a big state. We've had 6 deaths in Queensland. We've had about 1,000 infections since the start of the coronavirus. So and the majority of those were obtained overseas and able to be handled in quarantine. Very, very lucky. There is one state in Australia that has done slightly worse, which is Victoria. Victoria is a smaller state. It's a population dense state. It's a lovely state, don't get me wrong, but at the moment Victoria is having a second wave come through. It's just starting. They're trying to shut it down. They think there might be a super spreader event. For reference stakes though, like Victoria is now increasing coronavirus. They're talking about 80 people testing positive per day. They haven't had any deaths. They haven't had any deaths yet in this second wave, but they have had 80 people. They have had it at a distribution centre in Melbourne and a supermarket in Sydney, which is in New South Wales, but it was someone from Victoria in anyway. Things are going on here. Queensland's dealt with it well. Victoria's not dealt with it as well. The reason that I mention that is because we were trying to go to Victoria this year. We had a holiday booked to go and see the Legoland Discovery Centre in April. We very quickly saw what was happening. Our kids are not ones that deal with illness well. Particularly my youngest son is very sensitive to respiratory things. He's pre-asthmatic. He can't be diagnosed as asthmatic because he's too young, but he's got all the signs of being someone who'll be asthmatic. He gets these pre-asthmatic wheezes, which have put him in hospital a couple of times. So it's been an interesting couple of months because he's gotten sick a couple of times. Not with coronavirus, because we haven't had any contact with people that have, but just with colds and flu. And we've been probably that close to getting in the car and going to the emergency room. We've given him, on each case, we trained on giving him ventilator spurts, cycling him through, and thankfully he's been fine with all of those. But he's had sort of 3 big sicknesses where we've nearly had to go to hospital. So it was very obvious when things were going pear-shaped in Victoria that we weren't going to go to Victoria. Back in April. Now, having said that, we rebooked in April for September, thinking this was going to carry the flu season and be okay in September. We changed in March, right? So we were ahead of. It was before the planes got cancelled. It was before the state borders closed. We moved all of this to September. Now we're looking at going to Melbourne in September, and the Victorian border's not open as of now, and because of this event, it doesn't look like it's probably going to open in the next 2 months. It might open just before September. So we've got another choice coming up as to whether we go down to Melbourne in September. It's probably looking fairly unlikely now, which is a shame, because we've got passes and things to go to Legoland Discovery Centre in Melbourne and the aquarium in Melbourne. We've got annual passes to those that are going to expire, and we're not going to be able to use them. But c'est la vie. We were certain we were going to be going in April, and now nothing is certain anymore. So that's a little bit of what's been going on this end. We've coped, like I said, we've actually, apart from having to move our holiday and now potentially having to move it again, we've been really, really lucky. We pulled our kids out of school before the schools closed down because we were worried about both of them being able to deal with being sick. And because we have a friend who's an ER doctor who pulled her kids out of school, we sort of went, if she's pulling her kids out of school and she's an ER doctor, this is going to be bad. So when she pulled her kids out, we also pulled our kids out. And that was, like I said, about 3-4 weeks before the school shut down. School is all back here now. That's all very normal. We don't have mandatory masks at all. So it's going to be a really interesting thing when I'm going when the theme parks do open here, and they're going to have limited capacity in booking things and spacing, but they're not going to require masks. It's going to be vastly different to the US. So yeah, I'm interested to see what it's going to be like when things reopen. What was I talking about? I don't know anymore. Yeah, so we've been really, really lucky. That's the short story, and part of that has meant that I've been working really hard to keep my business afloat, and I can say my business now, which is funny. Obviously the business has, where we build recruitment software, so it's a mixed time for that kind of industry where people aren't going out and buying new software, but the people that are using our software are sort of expanding their use of it because they're getting more and more temporary staff. So it's a fascinating time, it's a stressful time, and that's why my video on Friday was not on Friday this week, because I have had one of those weeks. And this is, you know, gonna be the normal for the middle of the year. So expect a couple of late theme park news in a minute, with my apologies. I'm gonna try and keep doing them. I had a break through the start of the coronavirus when there was genuinely no news, and I tried to do another series in its stead. I don't think many people watched much of it, but I was trying to do stupid things, I called them, tasks in a minute. So I proved a mathematical theorem, I made some origami, I tried to draw Mickey, I tried to read a Dr. Seuss book, various things that I tried to do in under a minute, which was lots of fun. They were really stressful and hard to film, so I'm glad I'm not continuing that. Theme park news in a minute is much easier, and now that there's theme park news and I don't feel guilty about talking about it as much, I'm happy to do that. Like I said, the Sunday videos are going to be less frequent. We're going to basically do them when I feel like it, essentially. When I have stuff ready, when it feels appropriate, I'm going to do one. I did one last week about the closure of Splash Mountain because I had some feelings, not closure, the re-theme of Splash Mountain. I had some really strong feelings about that, and I wanted to get them out of me and do something with them. So I made a video about that, and I'll leave a link to somewhere up here to go and look at that. I'll also leave a link back with that other bit to my playlist of things in a minute if you want to watch that, because there's some interesting stuff in there. Yeah, look, I think our plans for the rest of the year are sort of in disarray. We don't know what's going to happen in September. We'd long been planning for a Disney trip, probably in 2021. That's looking fairly unlikely too, which is it's not nice. Let's put it that way. When you've been looking forward to something for so long, like it's been 20 years since I was at Walt Disney World. So I was keen to get back there, but yeah, that's not going to happen likely in 2021, but it's still going to happen. We're at a stage where we've been thinking long and hard now about whether America is the place we're going to go to next. There are two major things that control whether we're going to go to America next, or we might go to Japan next, which is the next sort of place on our list. Basically, how well America deals with coronavirus, because Japan is dealing with it well. That's part of the reason why I'm not worried about going to Japan. They're actually coping with it really, really well. So how the rest of the year goes for America in coronavirus, and honestly, how the election goes for America at the end of the year. That's one of the biggest things. I said at the last election that I wouldn't set foot in America while Trump was president, and that's still true. He's a disease on that country, and I don't think anyone outside of the US thinks anything positive about his presidency, and the things that have happened during it are directly because of him, and he takes no responsibility, and that is deeply troubling in a society as large and powerful as the US. It's a country that I really love, so I want it to elect a better leader next time. I'm not sure, I'm not saying that Joe Biden is the second coming. I don't actually feel strongly about the guy. I like some of the other candidates that the Democrats had better than Joe Biden, but yeah, I'd vote for pretty much anyone in favour of Trump at this point. I think the world wants change in America. So fingers crossed, America sorts themselves out at the end of the year. The coronavirus turns around over there. We might still be heading over there in the next 3 years, but we can't really say anything is certain anymore. So that's what's been happening on the Think Park Nut side of things. How have all of you been coping with the coronavirus, with 2020 and the crazy things that have been happening all around the world? Leave a comment in the section down below with how you're doing, because I want to know. Thanks for watching a long and rambling video all about what's been happening in Australia for us in our little Theme Park Nut family, and what's going to be happening over the rest of the year. We'll be back next Friday, fingers crossed, with another Theme Park News in a Minute video, so tune in for that. In the meantime, check us out on Twitter at Theme Park Nut, on Instagram, Theme Park Nut Insta, or our blog is themeparknut.com. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, cheers!